saw her again, at the end of the hallway. Long white dress, pale face, watching me. She looked like my mother, but my mother's been dead for 3 years.
My husband disappeared every full moon. Last night, I followed him. Part 1. The Pattern.
We'd been married almost 4 years when I first noticed the pattern. Not a suspicion, not a hunch, but a pattern. That's how my brain works. I don't jump to conclusions. I observe, I record, I analyze. It started small, something you wouldn't notice unless you were paying attention. Eric would be off. Once a month, every month. At first, I chalked it up to stress. He's a trauma nurse, used to night shifts, sudden call-ins, the kind of exhaustion that sinks into your bones and makes you forget your own name. I'd grown used to him crashing on the couch, waking in cold sweats, muttering things I couldn't quite make out. But it wasn't just stress. It was always the same day, or rather, the same night. The night of the full moon. It sounds ridiculous, I know, like something out of a werewolf movie, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Every 29.5 days, right on schedule, Eric would vanish. Not gone for work, not visiting a friend. I mean vanish. It started one winter, January. I remember because it was the first time I truly noticed. We'd been out with friends and everything seemed normal. He laughed at jokes, held my hand, kissed me under the street lamp on the walk back to the car. But at exactly 10:55 p.m., something in him shifted. He went silent, his eyes unfocused. His grip on my hand slackened like he suddenly forgot I was there. He said he had to stop by the hospital, that he left something important in his locker. Wouldn't be long. He didn't come back until nearly dawn. His phone had died. No texts, no calls. Just me in bed staring at the ceiling until the light began to creep through the blinds. He slipped in without a word. His clothes smelled damp. His boots were muddy. He said nothing as he climbed in next to me and curled up, facing away. I didn't ask. The next month it happened again, and the next, and again. By the time I finally started tracking it, we were 7 cycles in. I didn't want to believe it at first. People disappear for all kinds of reasons. Work, stress, secret affairs. The mind plays tricks when you're insecure. So I did what I do best. I gathered data. I bought a cheap planner and marked every night Eric vanished. Then I looked up the lunar cycle. My fingers trembled as I traced each X on the calendar. They matched. Every full moon. He'd disappear sometime between 10:45 and 11:15 p.m., return around 5:30 a.m. and never speak of it. I told myself to be rational. Coincidences happen. Full moons are just moons. But it wasn't just the vanishing. It was what he looked like after. Sometimes he'd come home shaking, pale, drenched in sweat. Once, he had scratches down his forearm. Another time, there was a dark smear on his collarbone. Dried blood. He said it was from helping a drunk guy at work who'd fallen down a flight of stairs. Except that wasn't the uniform he wore to the hospital. It wasn't even the right shirt. And when I checked his schedule online, he wasn't even working that night. Then, there was the bleach. God, the smell of it. He'd come home stinking of bleach, like he'd bathed in it. It clung to him under his fingernails, in his hair. I asked if he helped clean the trauma bay. He said yes, but he never worked sanitation. And I know what human blood smells like when it's been bleached. I used to intern at a coroner's office. That scent never leaves you. I started watching him more closely. Not just the night of the full moon, but the day before. He'd become skittish, distant, like someone anticipating a painful ritual. He'd forget to eat, refuse sex, flinch at loud noises. And the worst part? He started locking the bedroom door from the inside, while I was still asleep in bed, like he was trying to protect me from something. Or protect something from me. Still, I waited. I watched. I documented. I told myself not to act until I had proof. That's when I found the journal. I wasn't snooping, not exactly. We were changing out the mattress, flipping it over together when I noticed a lump beneath the fabric. Tucked deep into the bed frame, folded inside a ratty pillowcase, was a leather-bound book. Worn edges, torn corners. Old. Eric didn't notice me sliding it out. He was cursing about a splinter. I held the book in my lap for a full 2 hours before I dared open it. The first page was dated June 12, 2017, over 5 years before we met. The dreams are back. I woke up with dirt under my nails and mud in the sheets. Can't remember anything after 11:30. My jaw hurts. My tongue is bruised. Each entry got darker. Saw her again at the end of the hallway. Long white dress, pale face, watching me. She looked like my mother, but my mother's been dead for 3 years. I chained myself to the radiator. Doesn't work. Nothing works. Woke up in the backyard. Neighbor's cat was dead. I buried it, but I don't know why. Called Dr. Petrosian. He won't treat me anymore, said I'm dangerous. Some entries were frantic, scrawled in handwriting so messy it barely resembled English. Others were calm, analytical, cold even. There were drawings, sketches of faces, some scratched out violently. Pages filled with symbols, spirals, moons in various phases. Some pages had only numbers. Coordinates? One page had our wedding anniversary circled 3 times. The entry read, "She doesn't know. She can't know. But if she ever finds this, leave. For God's sake, leave." My blood ran cold. I should have confronted him right then, demanded answers, screamed, accused. But I didn't. Because part of me didn't want to know. And another part, the darker part, wanted to see how deep the rabbit hole went. The next full moon was 19 days away. I spent every one of those days preparing. I bought a GPS tracker online, discreet, small, magnetized. I slipped it beneath his car bumper while he was in the shower. I set up cloud backups for my laptop, my phone, even my smart home devices. I installed a hidden camera in the hallway, another in the bedroom. If anything happened to me, there'd be a record. I even emailed copies of the journal to myself and saved them in encrypted folders under fake names. I wasn't just watching Eric anymore. I was hunting him. The night before the full moon, he was silent, tense. He stared out the window for nearly an hour, barely touching his food. We didn't speak, didn't touch, didn't even sleep in the same bed. I lay awake in the guest room, phone clutched in my hand, waiting for the moment he'd leave. At 11:06 p.m. I heard it, the front door creaking open, then silence. I waited 60 seconds, then I slipped out after him. He didn't drive toward the hospital. He didn't go downtown. He headed west, toward the outskirts, toward the national preserve that had been shut down for wildlife conservation 2 years ago. I knew the one. It had been in the papers after a body was found near one of the abandoned ranger stations. They never released a name. I kept my distance, parked 2 blocks behind him, watched him exit the car, pop the trunk, and sling a duffel bag over his shoulder. Then he vanished into the trees. No flashlight, no hesitation, like he'd done it 100 times before. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. The forest was dead silent. No birds, no crickets. Even the wind had stopped. My boots crunched softly against frostbitten leaves. I moved slowly, careful not to make noise. Then I found it. A trail, worn into the earth like a scar. I followed it. The trees thickened. The moonlight was barely enough to see by. I nearly turned back, twice, but something inside me pulled me forward. Then I saw the clearing, and Eric was in it. Shirtless, kneeling in the dirt, digging like a man possessed. and next to him, a black garbage bag bound with duct tape. I crouched behind a tree, breath frozen in my throat. He tore open the bag, and a pale hand slipped out. Small, feminine, lifeless. Eric didn't scream, didn't panic. He just stared at it. Then slowly, like he was in a trance, he whispered something I couldn't hear, and reburied it, covered it with dirt, patted it down, pressed his forehead to the soil. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then I stepped on a branch. Snap! Eric's head whipped around, his eyes locked onto mine.
Part 2. The Escape. Eric's eyes locked on mine through the darkness. For a split second, he didn't move. Neither did I. The cold air between us seemed to tighten like a drawn bowstring. The moon, heavy and bloated above the trees, bathed the forest in pale silver. His bare chest was streaked with dirt and sweat. The shovel hung loosely in his hand. A smear of something dark ran down his forearm. Blood? Mud? I don't know how long we stared at each other. 10 seconds? A minute? My heart was thundering in my ears, loud enough I thought he might hear it. Then, he dropped the shovel. Not threw, dropped. Quietly, as if it had become too heavy to hold. He took a step toward me. I turned and ran. I didn't remember the path. I didn't try to. All I cared about was getting as much distance between us as possible. Branches tore at my jacket. Roots nearly took my ankles. I fell once hard, skinning both palms, but scrambled back up without stopping. I could hear him behind me, crashing through the underbrush. Not yelling, not calling my name, just following, silent. That made it worse. I zigzagged through the woods until I saw a flicker of silver in the distance. His car. I made for it, heart clawing at my throat. I was maybe 30 yards away when I heard him again, closer now, too close. I dropped behind the bumper of my own car, parked across the trail where I'd hidden it earlier. Crouched low, gasping for air, I waited. A minute passed, then 2. Then I saw him. He stepped into the clearing, calm, expressionless. His shirt was back on, no sign of panic or confusion. He didn't look left or right. He just walked straight to his car, got in, and drove off. I waited until his taillights vanished. Only then did I let myself cry. Back home, the clock read 3:17 a.m. Eric's car was already in the driveway. How the hell had he gotten ahead of me? I sat in my own vehicle for another 15 minutes before I dared go inside. My hands were still shaking. My pants were soaked through from a shallow creek I'd barreled through in the dark. My left knee throbbed from where I'd twisted it on a root. I must have looked like I'd been in a bar fight with a pine tree. I turned the knob silently and slipped into the house. Every light was off. I moved slowly through the foyer, past the hallway camera, toward our bedroom. He was in bed, asleep. Face turned toward the wall, snoring softly, like nothing had happened. I watched him sleep. No part of me believed it was real. Was he pretending? Was this some kind of trap? But as I stared, I noticed something I hadn't expected. He looked fragile. His face in sleep was pale, not from exhaustion, but from something deeper, like he hadn't been in the sun in weeks. His lips moved slightly, whispering something I couldn't make out. Then he flinched. I stepped back. Because in that moment I realized something. He wasn't hunting me in the woods. He wasn't chasing me at all. He didn't even know I was there. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with a mug of coffee I didn't drink and stared at the hallway camera footage on my phone. It confirmed what I already feared. At exactly 11:06 p.m., Eric walked out of the front door, calm, mechanical. At 5:22 a.m., he walked back in, head down, barely blinking. I scrolled forward, expecting to see me enter the house sometime after that. but there was nothing. No footage of my return. Like the camera hadn't recorded me at all. That shouldn't have been possible. The next morning I confronted him. Not directly, I wasn't ready for that. I needed openings, gaps, things I could poke into and test the edges of. Over breakfast I casually asked, "Do you remember much from last night?" He blinked, slow. "What do you mean?" "You got in late." A pause. "I had to pick up a shift," he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Someone called in sick. I think I was pretty out of it." "You think?" "Yeah," he muttered. "Everything feels hazy. It's been happening more lately." I sipped my coffee. "You think you're sleepwalking?" That made him freeze, just for a second. Then he nodded too quickly. "Maybe." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. He was lying to my face and doing a bad job of it. But part of me still wanted to believe him. That there was a rational explanation, a neurological one. I didn't want to be the kind of person who married a killer. But he wasn't just a liar, he was a careful liar. That night, while he showered, I checked his backpack. Not the one he brought to work, the other one. The duffel bag from the woods. It was gone. So was the shovel. So was the trash bag. He was covering his tracks, that much was clear. But why return to the same location over and over? Was he adding more victims? Reburying evidence? Digging someone up? I opened my laptop and typed the GPS coordinates into Google Earth. My tracker had saved the location from the night before. The nearest labeled feature was Black Hollow Preserve, officially shut down 2 years ago. No trails, no maintenance. But hikers still went in sometimes, mostly teenagers or thrill seekers. Rumors of cold spots, strange noises, missing dogs. I clicked through a local true crime forum and found a post from last fall. "Anyone remember the girl they found near Black Hollow in 2021? Blonde, 20s, never identified. Cops said it was suicide, but the body was buried with zip ties on her wrists. Whole thing got swept under the rug." I sat back in my chair. Was she in that bag? Or was it someone else? I made a decision. I was going back. This time, I wasn't just following, I was digging. At noon the next day, I drove to the nearest hardware store and bought a collapsible spade. Camping gear, trail markers, a burner phone with a basic GPS app, and a 64-gigabyte SD card for my camera. Then I took the day off work. I told Eric I had an off-site client meeting in the next town over. He didn't even question it, just kissed my forehead and said, "Drive safe." I wondered if he knew I was lying, too. The forest looked different in daylight, less eerie, more forgotten. The trail was still there, faint but visible. I followed it back to the same clearing, using the GPS coordinates from the tracker. And I found it. The dirt had been disturbed again, fresh. I knelt down and started digging. The earth was cold, compacted, heavy with moisture. It took me nearly an hour, but eventually I struck something solid. Plastic. A bag. Just like the one from the night before. I peeled it open. Inside were clothes, a necklace, a phone with a shattered screen. No body this time, just the relics of someone who used to be. The stench was awful, but it wasn't fresh. Whoever this was, they'd been here a long time. And Eric had dug them up. For what? I took pictures of everything, logged the location, took a video of the items and uploaded it to my cloud account. Then I buried it again. That night, we ate pasta and watched a movie. Eric rubbed my feet, laughed at my jokes, kissed my neck. He was the man I married. But I couldn't stop seeing the other Eric, the one in the woods, the one kneeling over the dead. When he finally fell asleep, I went back to the journal, the old one I found under the bed. I hadn't read every page yet. Some were too disturbing. But now I forced myself to finish it. One entry stood out.
She came to me again. Not in a dream. In the mirror. Said my blood was not mine, that she gave it to me and she could take it back. I think she's real. I think she's in me now. It was signed E.B. Eric's middle initial isn't B. Mine is. Part 3. The Watcher. The discovery should have changed everything. A buried cache of personal belongings in the woods, meticulously unearthed and reburied by my husband under the cover of a full moon. Anyone else would have run to the police, or at least packed a bag and left. But I didn't. I told myself I needed more proof, needed to understand what was really happening before blowing up both our lives. The truth? I wasn't sure if I was protecting him or if I was protecting myself. The morning after my second trip to Black Hollow, I woke to find Eric already gone. No note, no text, just the soft creak of the house settling, the whisper of coffee long since cold in the pot. I checked the hallway camera. He'd left around 6:04 a.m., well after sunrise. So whatever compulsion was driving him, it seemed to end when the moon disappeared. I watched the footage 3 times, frame by frame. Nothing unusual. Until the very end. Right before the clip stopped, a blur passed in front of the lens. Not Eric, not me. Something pale, thin, hunched. I froze it, enhanced it, adjusted the contrast. The shape was humanoid, but wrong. Too long in the limbs, too sharp in the joints. It was standing just behind the front door inside the house, and I never heard it leave. That afternoon, I bought 4 new cameras, 2 for inside the house, kitchen and living room, and 2 outside, positioned to watch both the back door and the basement bulkhead. I didn't tell Eric. I didn't even act nervous when he came home. But I was. I was terrified. That night, we sat in bed reading. Eric had his old medical textbooks open. He claimed to be brushing up on anatomy for an upcoming training at the hospital. I watched him from over the rim of my book. His hands weren't shaking, his eyes moved across the page with practiced focus. He even underlined a few sentences. But he wasn't reading, I could tell. He wasn't absorbing anything. It was just camouflage, a performance. "What was your childhood like?" I asked. He looked up, surprised. "Why?" "Just wondering." He closed the book. "Pretty normal. Quiet. My mom raised me alone. Dad left when I was a baby. She worked nights a lot, so I spent a lot of time alone. Or with the neighbor lady, Miss Cranley." "Did you ever sleepwalk as a kid?" A pause. Then, "Sometimes, yeah." He didn't elaborate. Neither did I. At 2:12 a.m., one of the new cameras pinged me. Motion detected in the living room. I shot upright in bed, phone trembling in my hand. I opened the live feed. At first, the room was empty. Then, movement in the corner. A figure. Not Eric. Not me. It moved strangely, like it was dragging one foot. Its head jerked to the side, bird-like. It paused in front of the couch, sniffed the air, then looked directly at the camera and smiled. The feed cut out. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. At dawn, I grabbed a flashlight and crept into the living room. Nothing. No signs of entry, no open windows. The door was locked from the inside. The motion alert had vanished from the app. The footage was gone. When I checked the SD card manually, it showed nothing but static between 2:12 and 2:15 a.m. I checked the camera itself, still powered, still functional. Someone had erased it remotely, or something had shorted it. But I'd seen it. I knew what I saw. And now, it knew I had seen it. The next day I went back to the journal, not Eric's, mine, or at least the half-written entries I'd found buried among his old notes. They were written in my handwriting, but I had no memory of writing them. It's in me again. I can feel it behind my eyes. He keeps trying to protect me, lock me in, drug me, but it's not enough. I saw her in the mirror today. She smiled with my face. I took the journal and went to the one place Eric never searched, the attic. I pulled the ladder down from the ceiling and climbed into the stale air. Boxes, old clothes, a baby crib we never used. I found a lockbox tucked beneath a rolled-up rug. Inside were Polaroids, hundreds of them, all of women, all of them asleep. Some looked recent, some were decades old. Some were of me, naked, sleeping, eyes closed, mouth slightly parted, taken from directly above the bed. I flipped through them, trembling. Then I saw one that stopped me cold. She looked exactly like me. Same nose, same eyes, same hair. But the photo was dated 1986, 3 years before I was born. The name scrawled on the back, Marlene. I confronted Eric that night. He was in the kitchen pouring wine. I slammed the Polaroid on the table. "Who is this?" He froze, then picked it up. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "She was the first." "The first what?" "The first one it took." It. That was the first time he used that word. "It doesn't have a name," he said quietly. "Not one I can say. But it's older than either of us. It picks a host, feeds through them, lives off their body, their blood." I stared at him. "You're insane." "I thought I was," he whispered. "For years." I asked him about the woods, the graves, the moon. He didn't deny it. I thought it was me, that I was the one killing them, but I wasn't. I was just the witness. Witness to what? He looked up at me. His eyes were wet. You. I don't remember the next few minutes, just my hands trembling, the way my knees buckled, the way Eric caught me before I hit the floor. I screamed, loud enough the neighbor's dog barked. He didn't try to hush me. He just held me, like a man mourning a woman who hadn't died yet. That night I packed a bag. I took the journal, the Polaroids, the SD card from the camera. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to go. Eric didn't stop me. He just handed me a set of car keys and whispered, "If you feel it coming, run." But I didn't run. I drove to the only person who might understand, his mother. Part 4. Mother of Secrets. I didn't call first. I couldn't risk giving her a time to think of lies, or worse, giving whatever this thing was inside me a chance to adapt, to prepare. I arrived at her house at 3:15 a.m., under a sky full of heavy, swollen clouds. The moon was hidden, but I could feel it behind them, a pressure behind my ribs, a flicker in my blood. She lived alone in a small colonial home on the outskirts of Lanesboro. A crooked mailbox, paint peeling from the shutters, porch light off, the kind of house where secrets went to ferment. I sat in the car for 5 minutes, rehearsing what I would say, but when I knocked on the door, she opened it immediately, as if she'd been waiting. "Come in," she said. She didn't ask who I was, didn't act surprised,